Well. Here we are again.
Yes.
Mate, has it been a big week for you? Have you been busy?
Mate, I have been busy.
Busy as a cat.
Yeah. I was actually making the thumbnail last night for the last week's episode and trying to find like the perfect 12-foot ninja sort of thing to slot into it.
Yeah.
So I was going through all the film clips and trying to find good stills to use, and
as if the one of Stevik with like covered in shaving cream and bananas with the knife.
that was gonna be the one. I didn't go for that one. I went for the Wiggles one instead.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
So
I was looking for a big grin out of Stevik. I want that trademark toothy grin.
Yeah. That's probably a little more family friendly as well.
I mean, yeah. And recognizable as well. I think we're already pretty niche as it is in terms of like viewership. So then to take the 20 people that might be listening on average and then divide them into the people that have seen that Instagram post.
Yeah. Totally.
12-foot ninja in the title, but then there's just some guy in chat. They're like, none of this marries up for me. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it all comes out of the twisted / genius mind of Stevik. So it's
something else.
You
actually,
kind of got to be. You kind of just got to follow the wavelength, and that makes sense if you're in.
Yeah, that's it. Well, I mean, these books that we're looking at over here, these.
Let's not give away our secrets.
Yeah. But he's a bit of a genius. Yeah,
definitely.
Have you got a tune, brother?
Yeah, I'm.
Tune me.
Yeah. Ooh. I'm going in on that I really love. I love a sort of prog metal band with a story.
Okay.
And so Coheed Cambria's new one, Shoulders, dropped last week, and finally they've dropped a song that isn't like 11 minutes long. Because just about all of the singles on the last album that they put out were like 10 to 11 minutes long or so.
Yeah.
And I'm right into them, but like programming them in on a radio station, like in any sort of rotation, is sort of like expecting people to digest an 11-minute song on the regular is a bit much. So I relish the fact, the ability to put a Coheed song into rotation on the station now, because I just kind of couldn't last time. It was just a bit much.
Yeah,
so,
not having to try and like radio edit.
No.
Radio edit, but I mean like to literally shorten it to try and get it around the 4 or 5 minute mark where people go, if they're not digging it for whatever reason, they're not able to skip it. Yeah. So like you got 12 minutes, that could be enough to really put them on the like, fuck this. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So this one's like 3 minutes 20, which is like almost surprising to get out of Coheed Cambria. But it's just as much fun. And I was just saying,
quality, not quantity, you know?
I think so. I mean, it's just a really fun song. And I was just saying to you before we started, I think that like it's got this really big riffy start to it, which is a little, little different for them. I think they just like, because of the shortened time frame on it, I think they just like get straight to the point with it.
Yeah.
So they've got this really fun riff to kick off with, and Claudio's like voice is the thing that always just really attracts me to Coheed songs. Is like he always just sounds like you're off on an epic adventure.
Yeah.
Like an epic sci-fi adventure. And, it just really takes me back to like 80s, songs, like almost 80s soundtrack songs. And the band that you brought up there about like Journey.
Yeah, he really gives you that triumphant kind of like he's like the 80s sci-fi bard.
Yes. Yeah. You absolutely like the triumphant is the word that it's like, the heroes just, taken out the castle and, swung out on a vine with the princess in tow.
Because I remember being a teenager and hearing Welcome Home. Like that was my first introduction to Coheed. Like I'm sure it was for a lot of people. Like that was a song that really hit.
Yes.
And hearing that song and just being like, at the same time, Through the Fire and the Flames had come out, right? And Coheed is not a power metal, speed metal band by any stretch, but like you could put both those songs in a playlist and get the same vibe out of both of them. There's just this real like, it's Welcome Home is more of a march than a gallop, but just everything about.
I've got something here. Let me put it to you that Coheed sits smack dab in the middle of Dragon Force and My Chemical Romance.
Yes.
At the end of each spectrum, you've got like bald v emo.
Yeah, yep.
You've got Coheed in the middle of that.
I'd vouch for that for sure.
Oh, that just came to me.
So same thing with MCR. When I first heard MCR, I had no inkling about the fact that there's an overarching sort of story there. They bring out Black Parade and you start to realize like, a lot of what I really liked about Three Cheers for Sweet Revenge was that it wasn't super obvious until the next album, but it's all musical theatre.
Yeah.
Much like Coheed. Coheed is essentially musical theatre in the sense that they're telling a linear story through music. And if you don't explicitly know, it doesn't stick out like...
And it would not take anything away from the song.
Exactly, which is a hard thing to do, man.
Yep.
It's a very hard thing to do.
But there's an added layer there if you look.
Yeah.
And if you look at like My Chem, like those tendencies are like those storytelling tendencies were always there, you know, being that, you know, Gerard obviously went on to write the Umbrella Academy and all of that sort of stuff. And like, he obviously had those things like rattling around in his brain of like around telling narratives and, you know, like they both have that real sci-fi bent to them.
Yeah.
Like as in Coheed and, you know, I would say like those two there. And then like you even throw in like Ninja to an extent. Like I just bought the graphic novel for Vengeance as well. I'll show you that after the podcast if you like. It's, you know, there's extra layers there, like where they've finally revealed who the 12-foot ninja is and all of that sort of stuff. Is a character called Kyoshi. Yeah. And he's literally a 12-foot ninja. So like it's...
I'm really glad to hear that. Yeah. I'm really glad to hear there wasn't all this build up just to find out that he was like he was a 12-inch ninja.
6-foot ninjas is not quite as... You're like, oh yeah, I know a bloke. I know a bloke taller than 6 foot.
Pretty blatant like false advertising if that was the case.
So yeah, I mean like it's essentially that's where I'm going with it. Coheed Cambria. It's a great triumphant big rock song. It's
just a romp.
Totally is. It's 3 and a bit minutes. Like it's digestible as hell and just fun. Like it's fun if you're like, even if, you know, all you listen to was like, you know, Toto and, you know, those 80s sort of like, you know, sort of bands. And then it's also like if you're into like prog and stuff as well.
Well, you know how Weezer covered, they didn't just do Africa. I think they did Rosanna as well. But Weezer like went and did a bunch of
Toto covers.
Yeah, of Toto covers. And yeah, that was all right. Like they're a good band for doing that. But like imagine Coheed tackling just like Journey covers. Like, you know what I mean? Or like Boston, More Than a Feeling.
Yes.
Yeah, like
I've just had a realization. I really want... Have you ever seen Highlander? Have we talked about this?
We've talked about Highlander, but I haven't
not seen it. Queen does the entire soundtrack to Highlander. I think I want Coheed and Cambria to do the soundtrack for the new Highlander movie that's being made starring Henry Cavill.
Right, okay.
Because them covering
be the perfect
Who Wants
band
to
for
Live
it.
Forever, Princes of the Universe, like, oh man, I think that's what I want.
What was the...
With Trent Reznor and Atticus Finch doing the...
Yeah.
Doing the...
100%. Always
doing the score.
Always. If those guys could be involved in just every movie, I'd be so happy.
Yeah. Did you watch the Watchmen HBO series that they did the soundtrack for?
I got a few episodes into it and I just wasn't in the mood for another long... Like, because I've seen...
That's fine.
The movie and stuff, so...
But did you take note of the music?
Not really, no.
Oh,
but they did.
Because it is brilliant.
Yeah.
It is absolutely tonally perfect.
Well, I could tell those few episodes I watched, I was like, this show is excellent.
Yeah.
But at the time, it was that...
It's a heavy one.
Well, no, it's the just the commitment of sometimes, you know, you get off the back of like a really long series that you've really invested a lot of time into, and then you see one like that and you go, if they get a good run at this and they get 5 or 6 seasons out of this, like I am never going to get anything done.
Yeah.
I have a whole bunch of adult shit lined up and I'm just going to, I did it with Ozark.
It can be like that, man. Cause it's like, I don't know if I've got it in me to invest again right now. I've just it's like reinvesting your energy.
Dude, a big reason I ain't touched anything that's white and granular, or just any of the hard drugs that the people.
Shit, that's where we're going. Okay,
but this is what I mean. I know that I have an addictive personality.
It's a fear of addiction.
Yeah, and definitely, man. Like I had an addiction to iced coffee for a while. You know what I mean? And I still kind of do, but I mean, like, there were times where I would actually have to, on the drive to work, I got in such a rhythm of stopping and picking up an ice break on the way to work that the mornings when I was like, nah, I'm not going to do that shit, it was a seriously hard time. And I'm like, imagine if someone gave me something actually life-destroying, like immediately life-destroying. So
stay the fuck away from opioids, Doug.
So
please.
To cycle back around to TV shows, when we were watching Game of Thrones, like the missus and I, and the same thing with Preacher as well. I really like the first like couple seasons of Preacher. I was just like, I can't. You get to the end of an episode, you're like, I have to know what happens next. And I would like go to bed with 3 hours sleep, and then have to go to work the next day.
Yeah, right.
You know, and I'm an electrician, so like I shouldn't
stuck
be
into it,
because I would just be like, nah, one more episode, and I wouldn't be able to go to bed without finishing it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so that's why I see a show like The Watchmen and I go, this is going to be fucking sick, not for me.
Yeah, right.
Not right now. Like, I want to save some up.
Double back to it.
Yeah, Breaking Bad, same thing.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So
speaking of Breaking Bad related things, did you see Bob Odenkirk? They're filming a new season of Better Call Saul. He collapsed on set and he was in hospital. I don't know what that's about.
Maybe he worked himself too hard on the movie, just did Nobody.
Yeah, I've not seen that. Heard it's real sick.
I've seen some clips from it and stuff, and yeah, I'm sure it's going to be. There's people that didn't like it, but I mean, you know, it's a comedian doing John Wick.
Yeah,
it's going to be different to John Wick. It's going to have a different tone to those sorts of movies. So, same but different.
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, on this bent, we've spent a lot of time just talking about like a lot of comic book properties here. So, you know, we brought up Watchmen, Umbrella Academy, you know, even what's the show you brought up? Preacher is a comic book, all that sort of stuff. You know, sort of a comic book, but it's more of a cartoon, and like the toys came with comic books. The thing I want to talk about this week is the new He-Man.
Of course you do. Yes.
The new He-Man cartoon that just came out. Kevin Smith, executive produced and directed and wrote.
Yeah.
It's 5 episodes, so they're all 20-minute episodes. They kept the format of the old series.
Yes. Yeah.
But this is the first set of 5 episodes of 3 blocks of 5 episodes that are going to be released.
Which is a smart way to do things, I think.
Yep. And subtle change is that it's no longer called He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. It's just called Masters of the Universe Revelations.
Yeah, so you can open it up a little bit more. And
yeah, because the focus of, without getting too spoilery about it, the focus on it is about like establishing that the person who holds the sword of power, their title is Master of the Universe.
Yeah, and that's a hot potato.
Yeah, and it's not necessarily just He-Man, because it's established in the show that many people have held that position before.
Yeah,
and not be called He-Man. There's like, that's just the latest iteration of the champion, the Master of the Universe.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty certain it was established in the old series, but like the power sword is actually 2 halves of a sword melded together. And that you need both to be for it to be the power sword.
So like two half swords turn into one sword as opposed to two swords melted down into a whole new thing. Yeah. So it's a breakable object, which is a great thing to have in a sword.
Well, it's great quality. They're actually forged together, but they can be broken apart.
Yeah.
By certain events.
Yeah, which is shit hot when you're fighting with this sword. Yeah. Although I guess the idea is you don't really have to use it, right?
It's pretty extenuating circumstances that's what it sort of establishes at the start, right?
Yeah.
Is like Skeletor essentially breaks into Castle Grayskull. Mm-hmm. He blindsides the sorceress.
Yeah.
Gets into like the heart of Castle Grayskull.
Are we spoilering here?
This is just the first episode.
Okay.
This is like the first 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And sort of gets He-Man down into the heart of Castle Grayskull, splits the sword, and like I said, this is the first episode, so I'm not going to go any further than this. He-Man, Skeletor, dead.
Right.
Gone.
Okay.
Right?
And like in the first episode, you're not going to be like, okay, well, that was fun and it's over now.
Yeah. And like Kevin Smith has come out and said afterwards, because people are like flogging him about
fucking mad about it. Yeah.
And it's like, do you really think they're going to hand me the keys to He-Man and not have He-Man in the show? Like, just wait and see, you idiots.
And think about all of the fucking TV shows you like growing up, all the movies that you liked and stuff, and then there's a twist in it, and you're like, oh my God. But then after 30, 40, 50 years, however long that you wait after this thing when they start to do a reboot and they make a change to it, and you go, but what? They can't do that. It's like, yeah, but you wouldn't have liked this show if they didn't take chances and try shit at the time. Right. You just had such a big gap between the thing that you watched and the new thing that it's in stone now.
Yeah, you forget that you were 5 when you saw it first.
Yep.
And now you're 35 or you're 40. And obviously your tastes change. If you go back, like, I don't know when the last time it was you saw the original He-Man cartoon.
I've never seen He-Man.
Oh, yeah.
I've seen you're a bunch of years younger than me. The YouTube video where they put what's going on over the... Yeah.
So, man, I'm squarely the generation that grew up on... I still have my He-Man figurines.
Yeah.
I have a bunch of them. Like, I took great pleasure in watching this series, seeing the characters, the figurines that I have. I can still name all of them. Like every character that turned up on the screen, I can name them.
Yeah.
Like, and I could do that when I was 3 years old. My mum talks about a time when I was like 3 or so. They took me to the toy store, and I'm just sitting there like, 3-year-olds can't read.
Yeah.
So I'm remembering the names of these characters from the cartoon.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there going, that one's Spike-Or, that one's like Stink-Or, Whiplash, Webster, Evelyn, Trapjaw, Merman, blah, 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 like going off, just like, and these like teenagers standing next to us going like, what the hell, this kid? Like, he knows all of the characters. He can't even read. Like, what is this?
Can I say as well that when you reboot and you bring back these like older cartoon characters and start putting them back into the world, and you have like the Nolan verse for Batman, right? And you're really trying to gritty reboot. You're trying to ground these characters. You're trying to get the believability going on, even though it's a guy dressed as a bat and his name is Batman.
Yeah.
So we have to pretend that he's the Batman because he's dressed like a bat.
Yeah.
But the name He-Man is the most dumb shit name for a character. But obviously at the time, because there was no cynicism yet. It was only optimism of like, wow, look at these cool things. Like, that was okay. But like Trapjaw doesn't sound like a real shitty name. So it sounds like the side characters are getting better names than the actual main character.
There's a great show on Netflix as well called The Toys That Made Us.
Yeah.
And there's an episode about He-Man.
Okay, yep.
And the guy who named all, like, because they were toys first.
It was one of those.
The dude was naming the toys, and then they had to just shoehorn those into the show.
Yeah.
So, like, He-Man's literally like, what's the most, like, ridiculous masculine name we can give this dude? This dude, because they were making these figurines, because I don't know if you've ever seen the figurines, but their proportions are ridiculous.
Okay.
They were a reaction to the biggest figurines of the day were the Star Wars Kenner figurines, which are 3.75 inch figurines. They're about yay tall.
Yep.
And they're all basically the same dimensions. They're all really skinny and really like, I own all of them. So like they're about yay big. It was a reactionary response to that. They were like, no, this dude's name is He-Man. He is going to be
huge,
larger than them. So the He-Man figurines are about this, and all of their proportions are utterly ridiculous. Like their thighs are like every muscle on this figurine is like exaggerated.
It's Hulk Hogan.
Hulk Hogan on steroids, right?
Yeah.
And so like this dude was just naming stuff like just the most obvious thing that's like whatever the gimmick was about that character, that's their name.
He wanted you to look at the character and go, "Hey man."
Yeah. Yeah. Trapjaw is literally like the dude has like a mechanical jaw.
Yeah.
Merman is like a fish. Beastman is a big bear looking thing. Mossman literally has moss all over him.
Man made of moss. Merman, man made of mer.
What do you reckon Roboto is? Do you know what I mean? Like
he's a scarecrow.
So, like that was the point of it. Like it was just like the most obvious shit that you're looking at it. One of the funniest characters has this big metal fist. His name is literally Fisto. And like
that's just amazing.
Just stuff like that, man. And it's he's a big bearded dude with a big metal fist.
Good on him.
Yeah. And he's got a couple of frames in this new one.
He sounds like one of the Village people.
Exactly. So, like it's...
Look, if you're out there and you're like, I don't like what Kevin Smith has done with He-Man, blah, 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 get over yourself. Like, fuck you.
That's exactly...
Fuck you.
Because you go back and watch the show and, like, the cartoon is just utterly ridiculous.
Yeah, they're acting like these shows were perfect.
Yeah. A rewatch, like, as an adult, it's unwatchable.
Yeah.
It has nostalgia value for about 10 minutes and then you're like, oh, wow. Like, it appealed to you as a child. So when you're watching this thing, you just got to remember, like, and like there's a whole bunch of people calling it out for being woke and all this sort of stuff, just because, like, essentially going forward for the next couple of episodes, Tila becomes the sort of main focus of it. And there's a bunch of women in the party. Like,
yeah.
It's like, oh, wow, I wonder what your real problem is with this.
And the old version was appropriate for the time. It was what people wanted to see. It was the way things were.
But also, He-Man was one of the shows that had pretty decent female representation in it.
Yeah.
And at the time, like...
Ironically enough, being called He-Man.
Yeah, they had Tila, Sorceress, Evil Lyn. There was... his mother, She-Ra, like, spun off it, and there was like that was a mostly female cast with like they had one male character called Bo.
Yeah.
And like,
but if you don't like the new one, don't fucking watch it. Like,
yeah.
There's this thing with canon that people have a problem with, like, well, if this is going to be canon now with the thing, and I don't agree with blah blah blah. But it'd be different, right? If you like, I know some people didn't like Rogue One and Solo, right? But it wasn't that they did anything wrong. It's just that they weren't geared towards. They didn't like the way the story played out because it wasn't how they imagined in their head. So when you put a wedge. But when you put a wedge, right? We don't have to go into that. I know that's a very heated thing. But when you put a wedge between two things that are already canon and people get shitty about them, let them be shitty, whatever, that's fine. But when you're creating something on the end of the other thing, if you don't like it, don't watch it. I think Die Hard 5 is a piece of shit. But I don't have to walk around every day going, Die Hard 5's in the world. Fuck, I can't. How do I go on? How do I go on?
Exactly right. Exactly right. And this is this I think this probably goes across all of art, but I see it particularly in music and in movies and, specifically things that are like franchises. Like, you're kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't, because on one end of the scale, you've got, like in music context, you got AC/DC who's made the same album 18 times and they have their diehard fans, but also like critics of just being, it is what it is. They're just going to keep that. AC/DC is not going to make a prog album, so critics would just be like, oh, it's the same shit again. But then if they were to change, they'd lose all their fans and they'd be critically panned because even if they made a prog album or something that's different entirely to AC/DC, critics would say it was shit anyway.
Yeah.
Because they'd be like, oh, that's not what they're good at. Why would they do that?
We were having a big chat about Nickelback earlier.
Yep.
Right. So that I had another tune that I'm going to save till next week, but my tune for tonight, just to add to this argument.
You did it.
Yeah, you asked me
actually
not to
do it.
but I'm going to do it. So my tune for tonight is going to be, and this is only came to the surface like about an hour ago, but I mentioned to Tim that I grew up with The Long Road, the album The Long Road by Nickelback. I was like 13 at the time, and it was kind of my gateway in from...
You really sure this is the hill you want to die on?
I don't want to die on this hill. But the point that I'm making is, right, I'm not going to stand here and say The Long Road by Nickelback is in my top 10 albums of all time. Yeah. I'm not going to say that. But it was a necessary step and like a gateway to the slightly harder shit, because The Long Road, the whole album had the it was still the Nickelback where they were kind of like rolling through like a freight train sort of. They had that vibe where they weren't just trying to be just easy on the radio, but their album tracks. So there's a song called Flat on the Floor that is a fucking banger, but it's not by today's standards now that we're adults. You don't listen to it and go, oh, fuck yeah, that gets me barred up. That's so good. But at the time, as a 13-year-old, I was like, yeah, this is fucking sick. But I grow up now and I can see that just because I really liked it then doesn't mean that I have to fucking vouch for it and be like Team Nickelback forever.
Yeah, totally. But then, because I listened to it and I was like, this riff is the Diet Coke of riffs. So
yeah. But like I say, when you're 13, you go, oh, what's that? And I was just starting guitar at the time as well. So I'm like learning the most simple riffs in the world and with like a shitty little distortion pedal. And like, this sounds just like Nickelback.
I mean, I did see a thing today, like, Joey Jordison passed away today.
Yeah.
Sort of, rest in peace. That was he was a man. I don't know about your Facebook feed, but mine was chock-a-block with tributes, like absolutely chock-a-block with musicians talking about how
very different for you because you're very connected, like through your business and what you do to all that stuff. I had a few people, we had a chat about it and stuff. And it brought up, it got people being nostalgic and going over memories and got people talking. It was great that that's brought everyone together, not being like crazy, what a shock. A lot of people knew it was coming, but the conversation that it made and got people together is, a happy byproduct of a really sad situation.
Correct. Well, the linking factor here was I saw a thing saying about like, don't let rest in peace, Joey. It was something like, don't let like people, don't let the old gatekeepers like shame you for, finding metal through Slipknot. And I think maybe we're both a little young for people to be shamed, like, because a lot of people we know found metal through Slipknot.
Yeah.
And that just seems like, that's probably the gateway. Whereas if you're older than us and, you found metal via Slayer and Metallica and that's a generation before, it's hard to imagine now, but at that time, Slipknot was considered these like young, like upstarts.
The popular chicks at my school listen to Slipknot.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. So that's what I mean. Like,
it was seen as mainstream, even though it was not.
No, not at all. And you know, I think it maybe a couple of years older than me, probably, you know, like my older cousins and all that sort of stuff that were into, you know, Metallica and Slayer and, you know, the big four generally, like probably would have seen Slipknot as like, oh, this new breed, new sound, like it's not real metal, which is like, oh my God, what an ongoing cycle to go through. But like,
that's so fucking bold. Holy shit.
Yeah. So like, yeah, exactly right. Right. And so, you know, I think that comes back to like, you know, I was just coming around back to like that whole thing of like, whatever it was that was your portal into heavy music, good music, different music than what you were just served up on the radio, whatever it was, you kind of got to allow it to be whatever that.
People we know that only, sorry, what were you going to say? Allowed to be? Just
allow it to be that thing, like regardless of whatever cringy shit it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dude. You kind of just got to allow that. And I've got to.
I want to say to every guy out there that like their musical maturity stopped with Pantera. And they never moved past Pantera. I love Pantera. I think Pantera is fucking great. But Pantera is not the only band in the world.
Yeah.
Not every band started by a guy in his fucking early 40s has to be a Pantera sound alike. But also, Pantera...
Oh, it's too real, Doug. It's too real.
Dude, I've been to 5 or 6 band bills where it's just Pantera light, 6 bands in a row.
Yeah.
And you're like, who booked this fucking show? They think that people are going to stand... Apart from your 5 mates...
How many sets of cargo shorts were on stage that night?
Oh, mate, I think the factory was... That's where they were making them. They had it at the factory.
Man.
But the point that I'm making is Pantera at one point was a fucking hair metal band for a start.
Yeah.
But think of all the guys that grew up on
glam as hell.
Led Zeppelin and Black Sabbath and like all those fucking old school bands. And then you know, probably growing up around the same time as maybe like early Metallica and stuff. And so they're getting into that. Pantera comes along, like really brings it. What was it? 91 was Cowboys from Hell?
Yes.
91, they bring out Cowboys from Hell. That was like... would not have been accepted by that generation that was early 80s at that stage. They would have been like, this is the Slipknot shit, like this new shit, what the fuck is this? And then they brought out, it was Vulgar Display of Power after that, which was a whole nother fucking thing again. But the people that like that but then won't listen to fucking new music, wake up to yourself.
Yeah, grow up.
I'm very passionate about that.
Yeah, fair call.
Yeah. There's a few bands where people go, that's my band. And you go, okay, yeah, that's cool. And then you start to dig into the rest of their musical taste and there isn't any.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I get the sense as well that like potentially the furthest they'll venture from Pantera will be like they're also into Lamb of God.
Yeah.
Which is like basically...
Yeah, which is just playing into their hands. It's been the same thing, but a bit newer, But, you know, like I love Pantera. Some of my formative guitar years were Pantera.
Without doubt.
But like let other things in.
Yeah. It's totally fine to like those things.
Yeah.
But also, like you say, let things in. Like just be a bit more like open to new sounds and
it's like they came across Pantera and then the door slammed shut and then that was it. And
whoever thought there'd be a conversation that you could have that starts with He-Man and ends with Pantera
and a little bit of Nickelback in the middle as well.
Who would have thought?
It's enough to make you think, isn't it?
Oh man, I mean, kind of characterizes the conversations we have, really.
Yeah, it's a mile a minute.
Yeah. Thanks for that description, Jimmy Harden. Mile a minute.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. It's just Tangent City. We've got a movie that we don't have to talk about, but we're definitely gonna talk about, right? Yeah. So it's not like this isn't like an obligation thing, but we were invited to go and see Jungle Cruise.
Yeah. Given the opportunity to.
Yeah.
And from everything they said at the start, I think potentially we were the only cinema preview screener in all of Australia.
Oh yeah, because of all the lockdowns.
Yeah, all the lockdowns and everything. I think they We could be wrong. There could be another one in like Tasmania or
the lady
something.
that introduced it at the start, she did say that they feel very lucky that we are able to do this because there were a lot of places that weren't able to do it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, which sucks for them. I just saw there's another 4 weeks ahead for Sydney. Yeah, so that...
Yeah, if you were at that protest and you're listening to our podcast, unsubscribe and go away.
Yeah, not ideal, champ. Yeah, really...
Yeah. Have another thing.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, you don't want to be a super spreader. You don't it's like Vegemite. You can't have too much. You just got to feather it out, boys and girls. But anyway, so Jungle Cruise, so the new Dwayne Johnson, we talked about this. It was The Rock. So it was and also
the evolution of The Rock.
The evolution of the naming of The Rock, right?
Yeah.
Because even though he hasn't really evolved in the sense that he's still doing jungle movies, I think this would have to be his 4th or 5th jungle movie.
Yeah. Because what's that one he did with Stifler?
With Stifler, that was Welcome to the Jungle.
Welcome to the Jungle.
Yeah. So that was back when he was still just The Rock. He's done 2 Jumanjis. He also did Rampage, which had a lot of jungle stuff in it, right?
Yeah, it was basically Mighty Joe Young meets meets King Kong.
Dude, if you look at Hobbs and Shaw, the whole end piece of that movie is him being back in, I think it's Samoa.
Yes.
And going back and seeing family in Samoa, and then all the baddies come to them, and it's this big dirt road jungle island chase. So, I get it. That's his heritage and stuff, and he plays into that. But it is sort of the way that Bruce Willis keeps getting one man alone kind of movies. Is the Dwayne The Rock Johnson is Jungle Man.
He's getting stereotyped?
I honestly think he's
typecast.
I think he's embracing the fuck out of it.
Yeah.
Once again, it's his heritage and stuff. So it's not against that, but it is the fact that, if there was a Predator remake, it would be The Rock, right?
Do you want to go on a quick tangent before we...
Yeah, go on.
Speaking of the Predator, there's a Predator prequel that's being made at the moment that's been really under the radar.
Yep.
That is called Skull.
Okay.
And it's a really, really simple film that's being made.
Please, simple, please.
It's about the first Predator that ever set foot on Earth.
Yeah.
And
so they're giving it the alien treatment.
Sort of. And it's...
like Prometheus,
Yeah, but it's not that ancient. It's imagine sort of set in the sort of 500 AD. Right. And it's an Amazonian tribal thing where there's a one young woman in the tribe gets chosen as the trophy.
Right.
And yeah, it's just her versus the Predator in the jungle.
Very cool.
Yeah. And it's just real simple. Anyway, back to...
So it's Prometheus meets Fury Road kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. No, I dig that.
But that's coming.
But so Dwayne the Jungle Man Johnson, so he was originally, back when it was Welcome to the Jungle, he was usually The Rock on posters, right? And was his namesake at the time. And because obviously Dwayne Johnson, I can see why, I'm not going to shit on him for it, but I can definitely see why they weren't leaning into Dwayne Johnson earlier in his career. But I've seen it evolve because... obviously, like you were saying, The Rock is his WWE or WWF, depending on how far you go back, name. So that's his affiliation with them, and you'd have to imagine that they've still probably got some sort of hold.
I think they own it. If you read about the way that they operate, they virtually own everything about their wrestlers while they're under contract.
And you'd have to imagine that either that contract has run out and so maybe he doesn't have to present like that, or he's pivoted and he's finally gone, right,
he's got the negotiation point.
Doesn't matter what anyone fucking says, I am The Rock, but I can call myself Dwayne Johnson and no one's going to fucking be upset about it or confused by it. Yeah.
So there's another further evolution of the name that I heard the other day as well. So I watched
Dwayne Johnson.
No, I watched a video of him. He just wrapped shooting on Black Adam.
Yeah.
Where he's playing the title role of that. And because he's been for years has been pushing DC Comics and Warner Brothers to make that film.
Like Ryan Reynolds with Deadpool. It was like, this is the role I'm meant for.
That's correct. Like, he's been really pushing for it. And
Cavill with The Witcher.
Yep. All of that. So when they finally started to make that movie, which has a cracking cast, by the way, if you look up who's in that movie, it's
can't be any better than the Justice League lineup that you gave me the other day.
Dude, Pierce Brosnan as Dr. Fate.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, it's sick. Anyway,
Pierce Brosnan's never going to die.
Nah, I hope not. But he personally put his money behind this movie as well.
Yeah.
To the point where all of the crew...
think he could afford it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. He's doing all right for himself, isn't he?
So every Friday on set, he'd get everyone on set and he would do a raffle and it was just like cash prizes. Everyone's name that was working on the movie was in a hat.
Yeah.
And he'd just be like, 10 grand.
Yeah.
The lighting guy.
10 grand worth of Terramana tequila. There we go.
Yeah. No, like just cash. Here you go. Yeah. And like on the last day, he ended up giving away 30.
Yep.
30 grand. Just like first prize was 10, and he gave away like a couple of consolations.
Do you think that is actually all his money though that he's giving out?
He put his name to it. He said, yes, this is my cash. I'm like, everyone's going through tough times at the moment. I want everyone to have the chance to and he did that for like however long they were doing it. Every Friday is like 10 grand he'd give away.
Yeah, okay.
So like
he seems like a really good, genuine dude.
But the evolution of the name that I heard, everyone on the set was calling him DJ.
Yeah, DJ. Yeah.
So you've got The Rock, Dwayne the Rock Johnson, Dwayne Johnson, DJ. Like it's.
I think to his friends and to like people he works with, he has actually has been DJ for because I've heard that name a bunch, but it's never been like his publicized sort of but like that makes it easier, right? Because Dwayne doesn't really roll off a tongue. I've talked about this with the missus quite a lot, right? About, the idea of like, how do you give a kid, like naming children and stuff, how do you give a kid a name that still sounds sort of good and has a nice ring to it and everything, but then also is properly abbreviated?
Is payout proof.
Payout proof. And, just like, what about Bart? That was the episode of The Simpsons. Yeah. He's like trying to come up with names, and Homer's like, every time she suggests a name, he's going, "Oh no, you can rhyme that with some nonsense word or whatever." And then she's like, "What about Bart?" And he's like, "Nope, that's fine." But yeah, so just trying to think of a name that it's 2 syllables. In Australia, it's 2 syllables. You can't like
Douglas.
Well. But I get Dougie, right? A lot of people call me Dougie. I don't love Dougie.
I mean, sorry, bud. I do call you Dougie a lot.
No, but I don't have a problem with people calling me Dougie. But what I mean is, you don't set your own nickname. People call you Dougie. That's whatever, right?
Yeah.
But only my mother calls me Douglas.
Yeah. Okay.
My mother and my grandmother. Yeah. And my dad always called me Dougie growing up.
Makes sense.
But because Dougie the pizza boy.
Oh.
But whenever dad would call me, none of my friends at school would call me Dougie. They call me Doug.
Yeah.
But whenever my dad would call me Dougie as a kid, it used to give me the shits because the people go, "Oh, Dougie the pizza boy. That's really funny."
When Pokemon come out, did you get Doug Trio?
All the time. Yeah. Douglet. Yeah. Shit like that.
Douglas.
Also, my cousin, man.
That tickles me where I like it.
My cousin used to call me Donut all the time. And I always used to be, and I'm like, what the fuck? Like, what's all that about?
Buddy.
But then, like, because when I was, like 6 or 7, I'm like, what the fuck? And then I got to be about like 8, and someone pointed out Donut, DOUGHNUT, Doug Nut. So he'd call me Dougie Donut.
Oh.
And I'm like, what the? And
that's
then
way more cerebral.
I realized, and I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, right. All right. Yeah.
That's way more cerebral than just like you. I guess you assumed that he just thought he was calling you fat.
Well, yeah, but basically, yeah, but just like call him, you know, you're just a little donut, like, you know, you fucking like, because he had 6 or 7 years on me, so I was just kicking around under his feet. He's like, fucking Dougie Donut, get out of here, and I'm like, oh, what, you call me that? But
It's pretty regional Australia.
Here I was being spelling champ. Never occurred to me that it was literally my name. But yeah, so you want like the 2-syllable sort of thing, and so DJ rings, right? But Dwayne doesn't.
Yeah.
Just like Tim, right? Like to say Tim is fine, but Pricey has a ring to it.
Yeah.
And you get that little sort of thing out of it. Yeah.
And I'm not a Tim O.
Nah.
I can't stand Tim E.
My last name is Gubanko, so I used to get when I was on mine sites Goober.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Goobs.
Goobs from people as well, but like when you're on a mine site and it's blokes and they're being blokey, it's Goober.
Yeah.
And then my dad would work on some of the same sites as me, so it'd be old Goober and young Goober. And not a fan. So if you see me in the street, don't.
Anyway, we should probably talk about Jungle Cruise.
We need to talk about Jungle. We're getting a bit long in the tooth here. Jungle Cruise was sick, man. Like the CGI was great.
Yeah.
The story, I will say, was very obviously could have been anything they wanted it to be because it's based on a ride.
Based on a ride.
Like Pirates of the Caribbean.
And genuinely you can see where like they went, you know what worked about Pirates of the Caribbean? A bunch of this stuff. Let's jam that into this movie.
Yeah, so there's all these details and all these things in the script. Like the way that the story plays out, there's obviously a scene at the start where they're like kind of mimicking the ride and paying homage to the fact that it's a ride with the tour on the Amazon, and all the things are popping out and he's pulling levers.
Strings and he's got his mates that are the river tribe that he pays to come out and scare them all
as extras, and so there's that. But I thought it was interesting. Pretty quickly you realize, you go, oh, the people who wrote this movie were just told, write a movie called Jungle Cruise.
Yeah, we've got the rights. So for better or worse, you get this movie that's got all of these, like, you know, not dense in details, but like everything about it is so over the top because they weren't given like you have to hit these story beats. It was just like find a way to reference the ride in a bunch of ways.
But do literally whatever you want, make it sick.
Yeah. I mean, the way I saw it just really was like every adventure movie you've ever seen, let's just get a beat or a character or like a character type or something.
Big old melting pot.
Like, because there are elements of Indiana Jones in here. There's Tomb Raider. There's the Goonies. There's Romancing the Stone. There's the Mummy. There's Pirates of the Caribbean.
There's fucking Popeye.
There's Jumanji. Yeah, absolutely Popeye.
Like, The Rock is dead set Popeye in that movie. Yeah. That's who he is.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
They managed to somehow make Jack Whitehall not annoying.
Yeah.
Whereas I thought, oh Christ. But I think, and like, without taking too much credit for myself for this, like, I think I nailed it in that, like, Jack Whitehall's character is absolutely John Hannah's character from The Mummy.
100%.
He's like the bumbling brother.
Ding. That's it.
That, you know, is like anything that's like a little bit like gross or out of the ordinary or anything like that. He's scared of it. He's the wonder. He's the reaction. He's he's meant to be. He takes the temperature of the crowd.
Yeah,
and be like, oh no, spiders. Oh, terrible.
Yeah,
you know, like, oh, that scared me. You know,
I did like that. If you played the John Hannah in the money, in the money. I'm sure he was in the money. It was a big one. He got a sequel out of it too.
He did.
But you play John Hannah in the Mummy next to Jack Whitehall in Jungle Cruise, and they are the same character, same beats and everything, but you can see the difference between like late 90s and today in that it's almost like you could have given him the Mummy script and that character and he would have played it like he did now.
Yeah.
And there's all these subtle differences, and you do see there's like progress in how they treat characters like that. Because in essence, John Hannah in The Mummy and Jack Whitehall in this movie, they are what would have been the woman character 30 years
30,
previous, where it's just like, oh, this is all like, well, I'm just a fancy lady and I don't deal with any of this jungle bullshit. Yes. And there's even a part where Jack Whitehall like hurts his ankle, and that's like the trope of like running away from something, and the blonde woman in the breaks her ankle, and but yeah, it is interesting to see there was a spoiler alert, but not really a spoiler, but there was a scene you missed out on, actually.
Yeah, I stepped out to go to the loo mid-movie.
And you missed...
I missed a key character point for him.
Yeah, it was quite a heartfelt...
Worked, but I was sort of like, oh...
Yeah, but when I mentioned it to you afterwards, you were like, oh, okay, like it adds a little...
It did.
Yeah, a little bit more depth to it. But so... Jack Whitehall is... so we haven't explained the movie at all, but so the movie is... Emily Blunt's character is looking for this thing, the Tears of the Moon, and it's a tree that has these flowers that are all healing and all powerful.
Yeah, and if you can get them, you could probably solve every medicinal problem in the world ever.
Cure every of the things. And So her and her brother, they're very affluent, they've got a lot of money, but they are
Which is kind of the only thing that didn't work for me.
Yeah.
Like the fact that they're sort of like real aristocratic and...
Yeah.
It's like... Doesn't really ring true.
Well, yeah. So the scene where her brother Jack Whitehall, they've gone out in the Amazon, and there's a scene where the guys have gone onto shore to like cut some firewood or whatever, and she's back on the boat rifling through shit she shouldn't be going through, and they're having a chat, and so the Rock's character is like, well, so what's the go? Like, you clearly don't want to be out here. Why are you out here with your sister? And he goes, well, you know, I was on my third arranged marriage, and I had to say no to this girl and to pretty much all of the girls because my interests lie elsewhere. And the Rock's like, well, here's to elsewhere, and they have a drink and
the most family oriented movie way of saying I'm gay.
Yeah, exactly right. But you know, they did it anyway. So like, I guess that's the beauty of it, is they're starting to treat it like it's, you know, not weird, but also they don't have to be really explicit about how they explain it. They can just, you know, there's a lot of stuff. You go back and watch old Disney movies now and you go, oh, there was actually
that was a gay character.
Yeah, exactly. And you didn't notice as a kid. But yeah, so I thought it was interesting because he basically said, you know, my family ostracized me, but my sister stood by me, and so I'll always stand by her and follow her anywhere and stuff. And so
there's a cool little message in that even for kids.
Yeah, you know, and so that then gives his character a little bit more, like, not just because he's gay, but the fact that they gave him an honest moment.
Yes.
Then makes you a little bit more connected to him, and not Indiana Jones 2 with the
short round?
No, with the blonde chick in Indiana Jones 2 that's insufferable. They wrote that character so bad. Yeah. I can't remember what her name is, but she was the worst fucking thing about that movie.
Yeah, because Kate Capshaw.
Yep, they just made this insufferable, and you know, fair enough, insufferable characters can be big parts of movies.
Yeah, but where she's like just losing her shit about the monkey brains and the Indy, like just all the time. Yeah,
and she's the person that sits behind you in the cinema and goes, "Oh no," all the time, and it just never shuts up. Yeah,
if you're watching this, Mum,
shh, please be quiet, please.
Far out. If ever there's anyone I've ever met that has no cinema etiquette, my mum.
Yeah.
But not because she wants to be disrespectful, just like she can't hold it in.
Yeah.
Oh, that's horrible. Like, Mum, shut up.
Yeah.
Imagine you're at the theatre.
Yeah. Like, my mother-in-law, she will do the thing where you'll be in the car on a car ride and she'll go like that, and you go fuck, and you hit the brake and you swerve and you go what happened? And she goes,
I saw something on the side of the road.
I just realised I left my knitting needles at home. And you go, what?
You're like, I almost killed us for that.
Yeah, you don't just go in a car for no reason. No. And you don't do it in a cinema either because you're just pissing people off.
Yeah.
We digressed. So it gives a little bit more authenticity to that character. That's what I liked about it. What did you like about the movie? Like, what was your like thing that...
I really do, like, I do love a good adventure film.
Yeah.
And when you really boil it down, there hasn't been a good one in a bunch of years.
Yeah.
Because like they pounded Pirates of the Caribbean into the ground, kept going, right through the center of the earth, out the other side, and into space.
I don't remember anything after like the second one.
I think there may be 6.
There's another one coming out, but Johnny Depp got booted.
Yeah. I think maybe the first and second ones were the only ones that felt any sort of originality to them at all, and that there was a little bit of magic there. Like they really hit gold with that. And like if you really boil it all down, you got like a Princess Leia, Han Solo, Luke Skywalker thing going on, like with Keira Knightley, Orlando Bloom, and Johnny Depp. Like the same appeals are there, and they hit that kind of magic, and then like there's only so many beats that you can do without like just being utterly ridiculous. Yeah. Like where they just all of a sudden they're like, oh, we really need let's just resurrect a character from 3 movies ago and like bring them back, like
that's some bullshit sometimes. Yeah. Once again, people want to make new shit. Like, I'm not going to be like, oh, they brought this person back, that's ruined everything for me. But there's things you go like, that feels lazy, or it feels fan servicey, but not for the fans, just for the studio to not have to think up new characters.
It's a dead horse to flog.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah, I mean, Fast and the Furious franchise, anyone?
Yeah. And look, I really like the Fast and the Furious franchise, but not because I genuinely have investment in it, just because I'm like, if they want to keep making these like stupid over the top movies, real good popcorn shit, I'll watch that shit. Like, but I'm not like, fuck, I didn't get to see it in the cinema, it's ruined, or like I'm not I'm not invested. It's the kind of thing where I'm like, what do I want to watch today? It's like, well, I've already rewatched the Mission Impossible films to death, I've watched the Die Hard to death, but I want to watch something that feels familiar. I'll put on a Fast and the Furious,
Can genuinely say I've only ever seen 1 and 2.
Yeah, fair enough. That really does surprise me, Tim. Because you really do seem like a bit of a content like hog. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you'll take in most
just
anything.
To check it out.
Yeah,
yeah. I think it was that, like, the first movie like is a blatant like Point Break ripoff, but it was enjoyable.
Yeah.
The second one felt like flogging a dead horse right from then.
Yeah.
The third one literally went straight to DVD and was not even connected to like there was a time where that franchise almost died on the vine then.
Yeah.
They were lucky they got a 4th. The 4th took off and they managed to somehow like link all of the movies.
Mr. Sunday movies that I showed you, the Caravan of Garbage, those guys did movie reviews. They went through and they did the first 3, reviewed the first 3 movies. And they're like, you kind of have to look at these in a vacuum, because even though the first movie does sort of set up the family thing for all the other movies after that, I mean, they were just, they were fucking like selling like stolen DVD players and you know what I mean? Like it was all small time thug shit. And
now they're in space.
I was going to say, by the 5th one, they're saving the world. Like, fuck me, man.
Yeah.
So you kind of got to take it from number 4 onward,
Yeah, I can't buy that. Like,
but that's the beauty of it though, right? These movies are so shallow and so over the top, you don't have to buy anything. That's what I like about them.
That's what I don't like about, like, that's what I don't want to have to bother with. Like, I don't like my entertainment light. I kind of want my action with and this is probably where I differ from a lot of people. I want my action intelligent.
Yeah.
Like I don't, and it's precisely why I like Die Hard 1 to 3 and not really 4 and definitely not 5.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the candy, the one that got me, the one that actually really put me back on a bent of like, I'm going to stick with this franchise just when one comes out, I'll check it out, was the scene in, I think, Fast 5 where they're getting chased by a tank down the fucking freeway and then this chick gets like, she was like on the hood of a car, the car crashed, and so Dom crashes his car because she's shot off the overpass and she's going to fall down between the 2 overpasses. He drives his car on the other side of the overpass, like there's 2 bridges, jumps on the hood, both the cars crash, and he crash tackles her out of the air. Have you seen that?
Inertia, no.
Yeah,
the inertia alone would just pulverize the both of them.
But that's what I mean, right? Is I watched a guy crash tackle somebody out of the air to save their life, and I went, I want more of this shit. You know what I mean?
Oh, I'd just be like, this is bonkers.
Yeah. I mean, like, you look at lightsaber fights.
Yeah.
And like lightsaber fights, like if you zoom out and you look at that, you're like, this is fucking strange and silly and like, the fuck is this? But it's got something visceral about it. There's more weight to the Star Wars movies because they were meant to feel triumphant and whatever, whereas the Fast and Furious movies are literally just like, hey, look what we can do.
I think the reason why that all seems so ridiculous to me is probably because I've only seen the first two, which are intended to be semi-grounded in reality.
Yeah.
As grounded in reality as like street racing can be.
Tell you what though, you look at the timeline of a franchise like that, they put out the right movie for the time every time they put one out. You know, Tokyo Drift was a burnout. Yeah. Like it didn't work, but they were putting out
burnout.
Yeah, you like that? But they were putting out street racing movies when street racing movies were a thing. And then they started putting out fucking, you know, there was a gap in the market for like kind of Die Hard meets Bond meets Gone in 60 Seconds kind of shit. Yeah. You know, like they weren't being revolutionary, but they definitely weren't missing the mark when they started putting out 4 and 5 and 6. And whether you fucking like it or not, man, people ate it up.
Well, let me tell you, like, obviously I'm on the wrong side of history on these films because the franchise really took off from 4.
Yeah.
Like, and that's where all the money's been. So, like, fuck me, I'm wrong.
Well, and don't get me wrong, man. I'd like to think I'm smarter than watching those movies, but
yeah.
Yeah.
Like, am I better than this?
I can't help it.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. Just like, I'm 30. I shouldn't love eating fucking Pez, but I do.
I just had an idea. The other night we were sitting after Jungle Cruise and you asked the question, and I'll try to be quick on this. And I think
we got time.
Yeah. You said, what's your... I was talking about Saturday Night Fever. You said, what's your favourite John Travolta movie? And in a very Step Brothers moment, we both went, Broken Arrow. And
did we just become best friends?
Yeah, exactly, right? So, like, we went that. You mentioned Gone in 60 Seconds there, and Gone in 60 Seconds is not my favourite Nicolas Cage movie.
Right.
But I think you could possibly do what we did with John Travolta there and go, what's your favourite Nicolas Cage movie?
The Rock. Close?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
It'd be up there for me. That or 8mm.
Oh, okay. All right. No, all right. Let's pause for a second.
Okay.
So I didn't realize that Saturday Night Fever was actually a R-rated, fucking pretty, like, kind of
gritty film,
gritty, depressing, like really
not what
challenging
you'd expect
movie
from a disco film,
dude. I did not see 8mm coming at all. It fucking blindsided me, man. I thought it was just going to be like kind of, you know, run-of-the-mill Nicolas Cage cop movie, but with a Nicolas Cage sort of edge to it.
Yeah, like Snake Eyes or something.
And it was, but it, you know, I was thinking it was kind of going to be, like a Snake Eyes kind of thing, or like Matchstick Men. Or
great flick,
fucking amazing movie.
Great flick,
so good. Yeah. That freak out in that movie is just like at the pharmacy is wow. Love that movie. But 8mm, great pick. But holy fuck, I'll probably never watch that movie again.
No,
that was
don't need to.
That was a one-timer.
Weird fact about that movie: directed by Joel Schumacher, who also did
Batman and Robin. Yeah. Fuck me.
What?
That's a bit of a tonal shift,
isn't it? Isn't it?
Fuck me. No, I would say The Rock because The Rock was the movie growing up where... Because I didn't realise it was Michael Bay, but it makes so much sense.
Yeah.
But The Rock was... I saw a article that came up the other day to say that The Rock was like the last Sean Connery Bond movie.
Yeah. Yeah, there's also a theory that like he is playing Bond.
He's playing Bond, yeah. Yeah.
Like really that's a code name for.
But playing Bond in the same capacity of like the fourth Indiana Jones movie of like they were trying to set up fucking Shia LaBeouf
as a replacement.
Yeah, exactly right. And so, you could argue that maybe not that Nicolas Cage would be Bond, but it's that similar sort of like, up and coming, doesn't really want to be in the situation, but, Bond is kind of like, come on, we're going to get you there, sort of.
One of my favorite moments in The Rock is right at the start when he comes home and he's listening to the Beatles, and like he's just had that terrible day where he's had to almost had to like stab himself with the adrenaline in the heart because he's like put out the sarin gas and all of that sort of stuff. He's come home, he's like chilling out to like listening to the White Album, because it's like a really obscure fact about the character. He's like a big Beatles fan.
Yeah,
it's really odd.
That's some hallmark Nicolas Cage shit to have like specific character detail.
Yeah, and then his wife comes home, tells him that she's pregnant, and then they go up onto the roof and they bang.
Yeah,
and she's like on top of him, and like just there's so Nicolas Cage is like just stuff he's saying. He's like, oh yeah, like yeah, like he's just like, yeah, I like that. Like he's just saying like this is the most obvious shit, and then like he gets a phone call and he goes, this cannot be happening. Like, it's like, what?
Yeah.
He just, man, he chews the scenery.
He really fucking does, man. That's what I mean. Like that Matchstick Men freak out where the I can't remember exactly what he says, but the guy's just like, fucking, can you not cut in line or whatever like that? He's just like, I'll fuck you in the street or something. Like it's some real, or like, oh, I'm going to gutter stomp you or some shit. Yeah. But he just freaks out and he's like, and then in spoiler alert for that movie, the end of the movie, it turns out he fucking was on placebos anyway the whole fucking time.
No way.
Yeah, the pills he was in there freaking out about getting were placebo pills.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Have you seen his Bad Lieutenant?
No, I haven't. I can't. Woo! I can't watch.
That is wild.
Yeah, is it good?
He's a corrupt cop, who like with a like So the movie starts out in what was it Hurricane Katrina that destroyed New Orleans?
Yeah. Yep.
So it starts in Hurricane Katrina. He's like rescuing. He's like a good cop, and there's like prisoners in the jail in the watch house, and all the other cops are like, fuck the prisoners, we got to go. And he like goes down to rescue them so they can get out. And he jumps down off a railing, misjudges how deep the water is, and like lands really heavily and like breaks his back.
Oh.
And so then like fast forward 5 years and like he's still on the force, but he can't afford, he's got no medical insurance and stuff. So like he's turned to like crystal meth to like manage his pain.
Right.
And so, and also anything he can get his hands on to dull the pain. It is bonkers.
The thing is,
absolutely bonkers. And he's turned to like corruption to get whatever he wants to ease the pain.
Nicolas Cage's X factor that he always had was that he could take what isn't an insane character, make it an insane character, but usually pull it off.
Yeah.
But then in the later years, as he started taking just shitty B movies and stuff like that, then you've
lent into it.
You've taken this thing that shouldn't exist, which is someone really overplaying characters, but kind of making it sitting in that weird like twilight zone of like being arguably shitty, but really captivating, to just being really captivatingly shitty. I can't get behind all of it, but
he's definitely had like a really weird career, man. Like,
Travolta as well though, right?
Yeah, true. Yeah. I mean, like you go back far enough with like Nicolas Cage, and it's like Leaving Las Vegas is genuinely a really heavy hitting brilliant film, and his performance is like key to that. And then later days he's he's literally put out a movie recently. Was it called Jiu-Jitsu or?
I think it was called Jiu-Jitsu. Yeah, or either that or like it wasn't Kung Fu, but
Judo. I don't know. Like,
but it was just the name of a martial art,
and it's just literally
he clearly can't do, or clearly won't. It'll be like Steven Seagal at this point being like, yeah, I can do that. It's just like,
it's very odd, and it's just like they're just like the only direction they gave him was just like be Nicolas Cage.
Yeah. Sometimes that's all you got to do is just let him loose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, works for Jim Carrey.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean,
but I don't know if you get that out of Nicolas Cage.
Look at what happened to Jim Carrey, though. They were letting him loose, but then in his later years, he's worked out they weren't letting Jim Carrey, the dude, loose. They were letting Jim Carrey, the character, loose because he's come to this sort of had this epiphany in his later years, like it or not, that he's like, people liked Jim Carrey. They didn't like me because I was being Jim Carrey. But then when I wanted to be myself, like when I wasn't playing that up, I wasn't interesting to anyone.
Yeah.
And so, I've tried to learn to separate the two. Whereas, you see some people like Nicolas Cage and you go, I don't know if there is a separation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So Jungle Cruise is all right. Nickelback's not bad. and
on the music side of things,
it
was nice to see Metallica getting that Disney money.
Dude, yes. One thing I'll say about Jungle Cruise that I did really like, I didn't have a lot of bad shit to say about it, but it was your standard Dwayne The Rock Johnson fare of like, he's not, there's some people that, like Nicolas Cage we talk about, some people that play themselves in every movie, but those people are actors first. So George Clooney, Denzel Washington, I can't think of another one right now, but there's these people that just are themselves and they get characters written for them and they play themselves, but there's still some gravitas to the way they do things because they are still actors and they can deliver. The Rock is not an actor. He never was. He's fun and lovable and passable in these things, but he's not like an actor. And so like there's always this, you're removed a bit from it. But the fact that they use Nothing Else Matters and they like really, I don't know if that's an existing, but that's a new version, isn't it?
It's like definitely a new version.
Yeah.
There's definitely no lyrics to it.
Yeah.
So there's a chance that, they just lent the song to the production and whoever did the score reimagined.
Well, it was like when...
but they used it to illustrate that they were in a flashback now. So whenever it flashed back, Nothing Else Matters became the score.
Which was not a strange way to use it, but like not what I expected at all to see this fight scene that had like the heavy part of Nothing Else Matters playing under it. It was
the solo, really.
Yeah, it had some fucking oomph to it.
It really, and like that
and they let
scene,
it. They didn't gut it. They used it.
Yeah, they used like the acoustic, and it was almost like they used like the first half of the song in the first bit, and then they like got to the guts part of the song in the really heavy bit in the it kind of just like progressed.
It was because they used it right in the intro and everything. It was like an underlying thing they could bring back, and so you kind of like you didn't.
It became the theme. Almost,
it wasn't jarring. It was the theme for the movie. Yeah, which is not what you'd expect from
a Disney film or family film.
Not what you'd expect from a movie that the whole premise of the movie is the title.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Jungle Cruise, you don't go, oh yeah, well that's a no-brainer. Nothing Else Matters by Metallica will be the theme for that. No fucking worries.
So here's an interesting take on it. While Metallica, like Nothing Else Matters, if you look on Spotify, is actually their highest streaming song.
Yeah.
Even more than Enter Sandman.
Widest appeal.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. So while that is the case, mainstream audience watching Jungle Cruise, I wonder how many people just instantly recognize, because I would put it to you that within the first like 3 notes being played, we went, Metallica?
Yeah, we did.
Because we did.
Yeah.
But I wonder how many people in that cinema audience were like, oh, damn, Metallica. Or, or were they just like, that's a cool song. Or that's an interesting score.
So a song that gets used a fucking bunch is, it's not Head Like Hole, but it's a Nine Inch Nails song, obviously, because Trent Reznor does a lot of scoring and stuff as well. But there was a particular Nine Inch Nails song.
Is it Hurt?
I don't think it was Hurt. It's one of the sort of heavier ones.
I'm guessing it's not Closer.
No, it was. Now, I'm not going to remember what the fuck it was now, but there was an epidemic there of a while of trailers using the slowed down version of something off Downward Spiral. I can't remember which song it is, but someone made a supercut of all these trailers that were using the same like slowed down version of this Nine Inch Nails song for every trailer that they put out because it just had the right atmosphere.
Yeah.
Nothing else matters. Clearly has that, almost symphonic kind of...
I got really sick of trailers using Drowning Pool's bodies.
Yeah. Well, so one thing I was going to bring up before was, and I think this might have to be our last thing, was that obviously Trent Reznor does a lot of scores with Atticus Ross.
Atticus... Oh my God, I said Atticus Finch earlier. Which is from To Kill a Mockingbird.
And I didn't pull you up on it either.
What a goose.
So, yeah,
Atticus Ross.
So they do a lot of scoring together. So The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, which is the movie I'd love to talk a lot about, but I'll keep it brief. The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, the version with Daniel Craig and with Noomi Rapace.
Noomi Rapace,
the start of that movie, they use a song that Shrek has used before. All these movies have, I think Wonder Woman used it as well. It's Immigrant Song by Led Zeppelin.
Thor Ragnarok.
Was it? Yeah,
it was Thor, not Wonder Woman,
So that's all the singing you're going to get on this podcast too. Fuck you. So they use that song, but they do
also
like
Led Zeppelin really don't let their songs out for many productions.
Yeah. Well, it's funny though, because that song, like I said, I've seen it in
School of Rock. They had to beg to use it for School of Rock.
It's been in the MCU. It was their intro to, it was in Shrek. They used it at the I think it was Shrek 2.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. But so
I've seen Shrek, and that is it.
And the intro, they did like a Bond-style intro to Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, ironically enough, with Daniel Craig. And they used like an industrial version. It was a chick singing, but it sounded like Nine Inch Nails covering Immigrant Song.
Yeah.
And I remember hearing that and being like, fuck, that's something else. Like, I like that. And then there's a bunch of movies that came after that did a very similar, like, not the same song, but they give it the same treatment.
Yep.
And you'll see the same thing with all these movies that are doing, like, they'll take 50 Shades of Grey.
The new Batman Robert Pattinson movie used Nirvana, Something in the Way.
Something in the Way, but slowed right down and made really depressing. It's already like that, but they've made it even slower and more haunting. And so they've done this really slow, stripped back, haunting version for lots of shit. Even 50 Shades of Grey did Crazy in Love.
Oh, yeah.
By Beyonce, but it was
Get Out of Town.
And it was so fucking just down
grating.
But it's a pastiche, it's a cliche now that people
Did they just make it
fuck, that worked in one trailer, it's going to work in every trailer forever.
Did they just change it to a minor key and slow it down? Is that what they did?
That's all they do now.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of YouTube videos on that shit. You can really sink your teeth into that shit of like how trailers are made and how when someone gets onto a thing with a trailer, everyone does it for like 5 years. And you'll go back in certain time periods and watch, and you can see when this trailer came out.
Yeah.
Because it's like every other trailer that came out.
Yeah, that's why I stopped seeing action movies that used bodies.
Yeah.
Like as
because it just fell off.
It's like, I see what you're trying to do here, and you've just turned me off.
I don't like it.
Yeah.
I think
and with that, we're done.
Yeah, we've tuned, we've flicked, we've chatted. I don't know how I feel about flicked. That didn't feel right. I don't know. So I don't think we can.
Oh no!
I don't think there should be any past tense of the name of this podcast. Yeah, we didn't tuned, we didn't flicked, and we didn't chatted either. I don't know how I feel about that. But thanks for listening.
I'll leave you with that.
GB.